Shops go, so do the people. Or is that the other way around? Whichever, in the end, it's more than the places. The community is gone too. There's not a more tragic or sudden example than a storm, a hurricane, for instance. The place, a little island on the coast at the end of Highway 1. The year, 1893. Since the 17th century, families and fishermen have settled down on a peninsula just west of Grand Isle. The community was known as the Shenier Caminada. Orange trees dotted the flat horizon, and 2 rows of simple houses offered shelter to families along the marshy beaches. We might call it the simple life, but that would not be true. Fishermen spent long days catching shrimp and digging for oysters. Women worked the land and watched over the children. Children were taught to hunt and trap. They worked hard and carried a strong faith in a Lord who had blessed them with such natural and wonderful abundance. Down here you often can't tell where the Gulf of Mexico ends and dry land starts. But that's just why the people, the families, chose to live here. They came from Croatia, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Italy, and of course France. There were Chinese, Filipino, Spanish, and African fishermen here, and by all accounts, they got along.
Shenier comme on dit là. Charmant petit village, 4 milles de long, église, école, belle plage. Big fournisseur, and Shenier comme in a charming little village, 4 miles long, church, school, beautiful beach. Where that furnished a quantity of fish. Farming came easily, the soil was good. Everyone earned his living, one can say amply, for in fact everybody more or less had money. Brave people, fishermen, had perfect understanding. Worked hard during the week, but on Sunday there was a feast.
Hubert Theriault is a descendant of the people of the Shenier. The ragged paper he carefully unfolds is a poem written in 1893. The pages are 100 years old now, and the words, in French, describe one day in the Shenier. They also detail the catastrophe that forever changed a unique way of life.
The wind blows always, increases in velocity. Then at 8 o'clock at night, sadness is everywhere. 80 miles an hour, what speed blows this wind? Houses shatter, water everywhere.
His 2.5-year-old daughter were in the house with several other people. I'm not sure exactly how many other people were in there at the time of the hurricane. And during the hurricane, it was knocked off its blocks, but it survived the storm. And the next morning when everything was over, my grandfather had to walk through waters, he said, up to his chest. To get to his boat. This house was built on the Bayou Thunder side, so it was away from the bay. So I guess that's probably why it survived, and some of the others closer to the bay did not.
My father lived in Shenier with his family of 9, 8, and all.
Schaefer Nicole lives in Golden Meadow. His ancestors survived the hurricane to tell a story that's become well known around town.
He drifted, caught himself on logs, didn't know how to swim. His family knew how to swim, but they all drowned. He saw a light in the attic.
No, okay.
Now he was at the mulberry tree. He dropped his driftwood that he was hanging on, and he grabbed the top part of the mulberry tree. That's why he always did have mulberry tree home, always. Anyhow, and he hollered. He saw a light in the attic and he hollered. So they opened the door and they pulled him in. That's how he got saved.
Do people around here still talk about it to a degree? I mean, maybe the older people do, but the younger people might not. But do you try to keep that story alive, stories like this?
Well, he wasn't too much to talk about it.
Don't hear too much about it. Every once in a while you hear somebody pop up, you know, with some...
Nelson Cheremy runs a seafood packing house on Grand Isle, much as his Shenier ancestors did.
My grandmother, between my grandmother and grandfather, the last 13 of them, brothers and sisters between the both of them.
13 all in one family.
Well, like two families.
I mean, two families.
Yeah. And the only one that survived was my grandmother and the brother, and my grandfather and the sister.
The only one that survived out of the whole family.
17. And like I said, they would
She never talked about how she took it hard, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, she went, they moved to that place, a little settlement, Perryac, and they live in a little shack made with palmetto and no floor, and she had 4 children.
The stories survive with the older people, but Jeremy says even his generation is starting to forget.
A lot of my family went through a lot of trouble, but we got out of it, and but some people are still try to work it up, but they can bring it up to that children, I guess. I don't know, but
The graves of some of the victims of the 1893 storm are disintegrating as slowly as the memories. Slowly but surely, the markers like these histories will be largely forgotten. In even this close-knit area where most people are related somehow and everyone has ties to the victims of the hurricane, a way of life is again threatened. The children of fishermen and oil field workers down here are leaving, as kids everywhere are, leaving their hometowns. The centuries-old traditions of life along the Gulf's edge will not last another generation, according to Wendell Curall, one of the organizers of a memorial for the hurricane victims.
We've gotten to this point of getting this memorial set up for this weekend and doing the things that would help people remember, but also to document the loss of culture. We lost a community 100 years ago, and that was a loss. The 100 years since that time, language has changed from French to English. Many of the ways we did things have changed, and we would like to document that.
Still, there are some people with enough years behind them to realize history is important.
I'm trying to build Leeville like it was from 1893 to 1914.
Take, for example, John Boudreau. He runs the hotel at Leeville, just up Highway 1 from the Shenier. What he's building is a replica of his town as he remembers it.
People, this building there was Mr. Lafar store, house, and saloon. And the reason why they got 3 buildings like that in those days, they didn't have right to, it was against the law to have liquor in the store, so they had to build a little saloon on the side. That's why you see that.
Different, right?
Yeah. And this building here was the Woodman of the World. The Woodman of the World.
IWW.
Yes, sir. That's what it was. Now, these are the buildings that was there those days that people were living in. Just set them up.
That's good like they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you do this because if you didn't, there'd be nobody else to tell the story of Leeville?
It'd be forgotten.
It sounds like
It'd be forgotten. I'm bringing it back to life. I'm trying to bring it back to life. I'm trying to make the people not to forget Leeville, how it was and how we live and everything else. You understand? I'm trying to show that to the people, whoever's got a little bit of experience of that. Try to make them remember their past.
Come on down and see it, Boudreau says. It's important that we all remember. Hubert Theriot says when he was younger, he didn't care much for the old stories. But now, he collects all he can about the hurricane.
I don't think any of them had ever been through a hurricane before. They'd been through little storms, and they all thought it was just a small storm. But there's some people that said before the storm that there was going to be a lot of people that would die. They like an avertissement, you know, something as if they knew. Like, as one man, he said he was going to die that night, within the hour. And his wife started to cry, thinking that he was going to commit suicide. But it wasn't that. She asked people to please try to turn him from committing suicide. And he said he wasn't committing suicide, but he was going to drown. And he did.
Do you think that a lot of people know about this, or do you think that you need to keep the story alive because there aren't a lot of people who know?
I think it would be good to keep the story alive if the kids would be interested. But there's a lot of kids, I think, they're not interested in that. Actually, when my mother would talk about it, when we were young, we weren't interested. And I guess the kids today are just the same. When they'll get old and they'll hear about it, then they'll be interested. And it may be too late. There won't be anybody around to tell them what happened.
These are the people who refuse to let the stories die. They say the tragedy of the hurricane is one example of a community surviving. In recalling their stories of surviving together, the modern residents of the Shenier area may find the strength to stay together just a little longer. Lost Louisiana will continue.